recording. And hello and welcome to Marshall Meh, episode 9. And tonight, looking forward to this one. Jeff Johnsgaard, this is going to be interesting. The whole thing on training on purpose by design. So he's going to be talking about, how to basically become a better version of yourself in there. I'm going to let him further explain. It's similar stuff I do in Blade Tech, Renee. He's just more eloquent than me in as far as description and his choice of words. But I think you're going to enjoy it as well.
And we're still not sponsored by Bubbly, but I'm just gonna.
I'm working on that.
One day.
I am working on getting the sponsorship. So without further ado, let's bring him up. Welcome. Hey, how are you? So this is Renee, and we're going to get started. I'm just making sure what you just...
And I don't know if Dean told you I'm the nice one out of the two of us.
No. It's the opposite. Don't believe anything he says. So I thought the test run went really well. Some good feedback on that. The comments in there. So you got the new website, which actually was just very recent, right?
Yeah, like a week ago, not even.
Yeah. So just for an intro for folks, why don't you just give us an intro, like kind of what you do, and then we'll segue into your new stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Jeff Johnsgaard, thank you very much for being here. What is it? Episode 9. So from what I remember, 9 is the largest, most powerful number, because after that they just recycle themselves, right?
There you go.
Next to 355, 9's pretty good. So,
but So retired as a detective sergeant. Took an early retirement, so just over 20 years worth of service. And now I'm operating out of the U.S., happily in spending a lot of time, as much time as I can, at least in Florida, because it's just wonderful there compared to where I was from, which was Canada. I guess what brings me to you, it's cold there, man. It's cold.
Actually, you know what? It was funny. I was actually in Deerfield for a week, so I just left Florida. So my in-laws just bought a condo out here. So whereabouts in Canada were you from?
Just like straight north of Denver, Colorado, if you drove 26 hours. So like north of Montana. Yeah. But I think originally it must have been through Dr. Kelly Warden. Kelly Warden is how I originally, I guess, met you, Dean. And of course, happily been studying National Spirit and Warden Defense Systems since grade like 11 or something. Like, it's craziness, I suppose.
With him like a long time. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, just by the previous interviews, I mean, you were up there as far as in the organization. You're one of the top tier guys, right?
Yeah, very blessed to have. He created a rank and position for me. So international director of training, and he can certainly articulate it better than I. But just for those of you who kind of know anything about Kelly Warden, just a little bit about him is that he got the DA2 title from his mentor, Professor Remy Prasis, and so that DA2 title sent him on a certain path and journey, but it gave him the freedom, is what I recall most. And so he'll tell that story, and has many times. It's not for me to tell, but it's very interesting. And so he liberated me that way. In that he gave me the permission to do, and there it is. There he is, actually. So there you go. So isn't that wonderful? All right. So hello, Tatsu. And so that title itself allows me to do what I want, when I want, how I want, who I want, and not have to really answer to anybody. And so that allows me to dive out and drive into the things that I want and bring them back. And of course, keep doing what he has always empowered me to do before I understood what it even meant. And that is to keep, finding what is my own natural spirit, keep adapting and adopting and finding efficiency and as we go. So that's, I guess there's a little tangent kind of thing, but absolutely as to how I guess I originally got hooked up here and to you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when we had John, it was excellent. And, I think we did one for the others, yeah, weather still camps and et cetera. Yeah, before I go, Randy, you got any questions? I'm going to let him just kick off in his new stuff.
Just kick off. I'm going to jump in and try not to be belligerent.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. So, whoever's on, of course, this isn't me on full send. This is an interactive thing as much as we can make it. But yeah, so I mean, retired. Like, so what I've been very blessed. I guess kind of what I do. I can sum it up in a couple of things. So I help to make people better at performing. And so that's especially if you're performing physical skills, and that's especially if you're performing physical skills in like some sort of pressure, time compression, ambiguity, things like that. And as you know, I could really, really dive in on that. But simply put, as a police officer and former military, I certainly I work the tools, so I have those skill sets. I'm good with hits and splits and shooting and tactics and things of that nature. But then for over a decade, I've done a very, very deep dive into like what does the research like this. There's a wealth of research on how to train human beings better. And then in the past 5, 7 years, 8 years, there's been a lot more research done with the military and police specifically on training them to perform. And there's certain organizations, some of those things I'll bring up because I always give credit where credit is due. I stand on the shoulders of giants, both with Kelly Warden and who he's introduced me to, and in this realm of evidence-based, I'll say. And then so I can do the thing. There's this huge amount of science behind it, but then I have really just been blessed in who else I've met and been mentored by for just learning how to actually apply it. And so, it's like I can talk the Zoomy Cool thing in that, 4 continents, 5 tier 1 organizations, just been blessed to be behind the curtain and things like that, from tier 1 to tier 99, so to speak. I'm a civilian looking to everyday carry. I don't even have a license yet. Okay, great. Let's have a conversation. So what I do is I look at an individual and I just say, like, how much time have we got? What is your desired end state? What do you want it to look like at the end? And usually that's more of a conversation without an actual, it's very nebulous typically. I want to be better. Okay, great. What does better look like? What does better mean? Things like that. But when we were talking just on our test that I didn't know was live on Monday because I was shirtless, but whatever, I threw on a polo today. So
in fact, I told the audience you were going to be shirtless, so I'm probably going to get flack for that. So.
Under here, I'm completely naked. Yeah. So we were talking about like this thing. There's this thing called human factors, right? So what can people actually do? And I want to specifically talk, because this is a martial arts crowd, about having like specifically in martial arts training for, let's say, street fighting or self-defense. What are some of the things that maybe I didn't know? And most likely there's a bunch of them that you're doing already. You just didn't know the reason why, which is really powerful, because once you understand why, you can then apply it even more purposefully. And that's my thing now. So training on purpose by design, which is what I'm going to talk about. I've got some pictures queued up, things like that. And we can talk about elite level performance, these counter-terrorist members, why did they do what they did versus the newly trained recruits. And then we'll have a kind of a training talk, as far as you want it to go. But vision came into play there, and the things that we would do in combatives, right? And that we were talking about how we look around and how we train to see cues and things. And I trust me in that I have a legit, here's the box, here's the system, do these four pillars, express in these ways in training, and give you these desired outcomes. So yeah.
Awesome. You got anything, Renee?
No.
So there were a bunch of things that in the test run that really, again, you just use different verbiage. For instance, just dialing in, and you were talking about guided imagery, contextual training, game intelligence, gaze training on purpose. Maybe you started to gaze like I can only speak on terms like I was explaining to you during the test run that knife's my major. So I basically try to help folks like enhance their recognition reaction, right? You know what I mean? In there. I can't, but I'm not sure in the gun world how, obviously you're doing it, you know what I mean? And so basically how to recognize quicker things coming at you so that in turn can also transition to a quicker reaction. I firmly believe if there's a delay in your recognition, there's going to be a delay in your reaction, you know?
Oh, I couldn't agree more with that statement. A lot of people talk about this OODA loop, Colonel Boyd stuff, which is observe, orient, decide, and act. You have to observe something in order to orient or basically kind of start to understand something. Then you make a decision and then you act and you go through this circle. And I could spend half an hour just talking about that and the coolest parts about it. I only throw it out there because it might be a frame of reference. I mean, I'm just trying to relate to the audience. So what I heard you just say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dean, was that this recognition piece, or really what I like to refer to as sense making, if you observe stuff, and that could be visual, that could be through touch because we're grappling, that could be whatever, you're gaining information through perception. I'm picking up information. Now, can I make sense out of it? Can I make sense out of it very quickly? And then we actually make predictions for the future. So Lisa Feldman Barrett's got a great book. It's like the brain is a prediction making thing. And so if we can put people into situations that are very much like what they might experience in the future, and then now we have them exposed, like let's say in a simulated aircraft or something, right? And we have them pretend to fly the plane, and it's as realistic as it can be for how you would fly the plane. I mean, that's all the better, isn't it? The problem is that's a retention piece. I'm going to train this way, and then I'm going to show up to training in a week or a month or a year, and I'm going to remember how to do that stuff. That means it's in long-term memory, right? You retained it. But the problem is that you can have very, very high rates of retention or remembering how to do the skill back in the dojo again. But now you're in a parking lot, a novel place. You're holding on to your little girl in a shopping bag. Your phone's ringing. That guy's approaching. Someone else is, and can you express those behaviors in a novel situation? Fancy word is called transfer. So typically in like law enforcement training, in any civilian class I've taken, basically, where they're after like, let's repeat this thing, whether that's slash, stab, stab, or draw, shoot. And then we get really good at it because we did it a whole bunch of times. I see myself getting good. The teacher sees me getting good. Awesome. Carpal tunnel from high-fiving, and I go home. The problem is that is basically, as I explained in some of the other podcasts, by simply going through it again and again and again, it's the illusion of learning. If you wait a short amount of time, oh no, I suck again. And it's what law enforcement hits all the time because they come around once a year for training.
Yeah, once a year, right, for the mandatory training.
Right? And so we see them come in, and most of the time you're like, don't you remember anything? And then we brush the dust off home plate for a day, and then, high five. But anyway, so the manner in which they are training, absolutely, Datu. Yeah. So the 5 strategies. In fact, we were talking about that on Monday. We were talking about, how many times as Kelly Warden said to me, all right, switch partners, get a different person. Because they're larger, they're smaller, they're stronger, they have a different feel and energy. And it was all these words that weren't like described necessarily as a process, which is very easy to do once you understand the science and literature. So what that means is I basically consider myself the guy who can get you ready for a gunfight, get you ready for a car chase, get you ready for a fisticuffs or, a defensive thing with a knife or stick or whatever, because I know how to provide you the angles, the energy in a variation of ways that has you then used to it. You recognize the flow, the energy, the pattern, the angle, the speed. And like, I've been here before, I recognize it, pattern match, and you're reacting sooner. You, back to what we were talking about, make sense out of what is going on. Now, lastly, and then I'll shut up and let you guys talk. What you have to do with that is layer in much more complexity, because that's what the real world will bring. It's dark. I might be injured. The flooring, the ground is slippery. There's other people here. Who do I pay attention to? Now my daughter gave a shout. Oh, but on and on and on. And that's where we fail because of how we stuck in that box, so to speak, to express it in a novel circumstance, unlike one we've ever been in. So imagine if there was a template, a format for doing so, which is training on purpose by design, right? It's all that research, of which there are great classes on. I'll happily point you to them. I help teach them because they're amazing, but they're the science classes. They're not the how do I apply this stuff so I can train less, get further, and not, freeze when it happens, and heaven forbid, translate it into a novel situation I wasn't expecting.
I got a few things, but Renee, if you got something.
Listen, I like everything you're saying. For me, my biggest issue is not so much the teaching as the students, because you can put people in a flight simulator, like you said, but 9 times out of 10, if you walk into the room, that person will have a phone taking a selfie. So they're just not paying attention. And honestly, that's just the way I feel like martial arts has gone over the last few years, where if you have people who are task specific to train, they will take you 100% serious and they will do whatever you say. But what I found, and again, this is just my own personal opinion, that a lot of people these days, the ring rust is a lot thicker than it used to be when I used to train people. Like, they might be gone for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month and come back and have a little bit of rust. A lot of people I train, or I have trained nowadays, they come back and it's just like the retention is very, very low. So either I'm doing something wrong, or it's just a different crowd, right? Like, and again, I'm a jaded martial arts person, right? So for me, it's I'll blame everybody except for myself. But no, I think it's part of the problem too is in today's teachings is that we teach people all the cool guy stuff, but we don't teach the look around stuff, right? So that's
if I could jump on that.
Issues.
So yes. So I'm a software guy. You don't need, although, I mean, I have amazing, in fact, most of them are Kelly words made right behind me here. I've got lots of cool gadgets and things, right? Bells and whistles. A good friend of mine, I asked him how many guns he owns. He says, not as many as I'd like, more than I need, right? And so, but I'm a software guy. If we could change some of the programming, it not only would learning be stickier or be there, but it would translate much better. Now, the problem is that we have been shaped by, everything since we were born. And so, as you mentioned, Dean, this idea of performance enhancement imagery, or just thinking, right? Did you know that you have a motor cortex? It's this little band in your brain right here. And under an MRI, if I was doing this stick pattern, for example, or anything, it would fire in a certain way. But if I sit, I don't have to be super still. I can actually move. But if I sit and I make it as rich, deep, and meaningful as I can in my mind, I'm in the park. It smells like this. The sun is hitting me there. I feel it, smell it, taste it, touch it. And I do that thing in my mind. It fires in the same way. And so I didn't know that. People it's like the number one legal used thing by Olympians and other people in sports. And now I know how to use that on purpose by design, because using your brain and mind, almost like form and kata, which is absolutely what I relate it to, is like breathing. We all use imagery all the time. It's just like breathing. I didn't know what I didn't know about breathing, that if I'm mouth breathing in my upper chest, it's like super bad for my heart, makes my palate collapse, teeth, nasal pad, all these things I had no idea about. I just thought it was breathing. So I wasn't like breathing on purpose by design for better performance. Now, if I ask you, hey, you're going to go to the store later, or what are you going to do after this session? Yeah, I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to buy this, or this. Well, you just either saw a picture and or created an experience of the fridge being empty and what you need, or on the shelf and where you'll get it, or driving to the place. I mean, you did that. So we are always doing it all the time. You could be like my dad's driving 18-wheeler thinking his wife's cheating on him. Well, by the time he made it home from that trip, she should have been, because you made it real in his mind. So I say, let's use it for good instead of evil. Let's do this on purpose. One last point on that. This is why I have these, here's a guided imagery session on my website, right? All that upsell, right? But here's a guided imagery session because I don't want to, will I freeze at the moment of truth in a self-defense situation? Well, let's give your brain an experience, in fact, many in a session, for not freezing, for performing optimally, which is just like if you did to your brain. If you were to train a dog the way that I was trained as a police officer, you'd break that dog mentally day one, and that would be it, right? Dean, that sucked. Aim harder, suck less, go think about what you did wrong. How many times did you get sent to your room? You did something. Now go to your room and think about what you've done, they said, right? My parents, who never had a parenting license and then passed me on one as well. Lovely people, you get what I'm saying. You went to your room and all you did was relive the thing that got you sent to baby jail in the first place. So it's exactly the not right thing to do, isn't it? Instead of thinking about what to do, I hit my brother because he took my truck. Okay, what do we do instead? Okay, notice that moment when you, right, make a different decision. Like all that. It's just we learn these things not on purpose by design. And now we have to rewire the learning itself. As you just said, Renee, was, learner motivation is the number one thing. You could have the worst instructor on the planet. If the person cares and wants to be there and attends to it, they'll learn more than the best instructor in the world, but the person just checked right out of it. So these are the simple principles. How can we do that better?
Yeah. What's interesting is, and again, I just use different verbiage. I think a lot of these things at the beginning, in other words, I hear everybody talk about the loop. You have to introduce this and all that. But what's so funny, now that I've been doing seminars a lot and going that's all over the place, I do with intention. I always start out my seminars with them moving around sparring, because I just want to observe the other side, so to speak. I'm curious. It's not that I'm trying to make anybody look bad or like that. It's really a high level of just curiosity for me. And I kind of find what people have in their training and what they don't, to be quite honest. And I love the stuff you're talking about, but it's not, in other words, people talk about it a little. They talk about you need to integrate this and stress inoculation. I hear a lot of talk about it, but when I see the people moving all that, they're not getting that. I just got to be honest. Like I'm not saying across the board, but generally speaking, they're not getting it. And then when I work in front of them, it's like the attribute development's one, which we're going to touch, the whole thing of improving perception recognition, right, to reaction. But then just the scalability that they're uncomfortable with, because they've never been introduced to stress or very little, you know what I mean? But I think the stress inoculation ties into what you're talking about, and I know you're gonna be able to expand on this greatly. Like for instance,
it's also like movement. It's movement with purpose, right? It's like
movement with purpose.
I do the same thing.
Definitely moving with purpose, but not like everybody is so engrossed in the physical aspect of FMA. I'll use that. Like I want more drills, and I want more branches off that that tree and this and that, and the accumulation instead of the integration and the drilling and the memorization, as opposed to the attribute development and all that stuff. And I see it every day in FMA discussion. I mean,
watch my 64 attacks, even though I only use 2.
You can literally drown in it. You know what I mean? But it all kind of ties into what you're saying. Like Ray Flores here is watching. He's a GM in Australia, and he's got some of the best attribute development I've seen it. But that's not what's being stressed. And if it is, I don't think the guys like such as yourself, Jeff, know how to dial in to basically pull that out of them. like really, really dialing into things. Like I do it with knife and like how I force them into recovery and how I in there, but it's just kind of through the Mako, and I give David Gould and just observation from Ray Floor, because I know what the hell I'm looking at. But I know I'm rambling here, but do you get the gist what I mean? Like, I hope.
Yeah, I do. Renee, did you want to?
Oh, hey, listen. I was just going to say I do the same thing when I teach seminars. I usually just let people play for about 5-10 minutes before I actually decide to start. And half the time I look for the people who are looking in the mirror, because I don't know what the hell they're doing there, or the people who are just doing the random combos. And then what I really kind of look for is the people who they're playing, they go into a combo, and then you can actually see that they're visualizing an exit out from the situation that they're in. And those are the people that I kind of like to hang out with, because those are the people I feel that are really there for what I'm teaching, right? Like, I'm not saying I'm not going to teach the rest of them the same way, but I know that those people are there, like they get it, right? It's entry, execution, exit, and am I getting out of here or am I preparing to attack again? But like Dean said, I think a lot of that is missing nowadays. Like, one of the gyms I went to go teach at, they had a DJ, for fuck's sakes, right? So it's like, I walk in and I am just, I'm as subtle as a punch in the nose. And I walked in there and I was like, what am I doing here? And it was literally, people were boxing like this, and the mirror is right here, and they're just like looking at themselves. I'm like, these people aren't here for self-defense. They're just here to, there's some ego bullshit going on here. Anyways, I'm not sure if any of that's even remotely related to what we're talking about, but I had to throw it out there.
Good times.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
well,
good times.
so you said a lot of interesting things. This idea of stress inoculation is absolutely an idea. It's an idea in law enforcement, and I really get specific here. We often chase this thing about heart rate, thinking that it's going to, if I get your heart rate up, it somehow mimics the stress of an encounter and things like that. I couldn't disagree with that more, and the research is solidly backing me on that. But someone popped a comment in there. It just went so quick because it's so small on my screen there. But something about, it was just before they said to do, I think it was like attribute development until it becomes instinctive, but there's something else in there. But I remember as soon as I read it,
yeah, that's who I referenced, GM Ray.
What's before that one?
Before that one is, oh, okay, I got it. Yep. That was before that.
Master, if you knew, there it is. And I like that comment very much. That comment resonates with me, sir. So, and how to set it up. And so that's what I really love, is that, why is this not going to land? Right? Because I just mailed you a letter telling you, I telegraph the crap out of my intent with that. And so when I first met Kelly Warden, he moved so fast, I didn't have a chance. But now he's far older than I, even though I'm pushing up to 50 pretty quick here. And, I'm stronger, probably, right? And all those things, but he still gets me somehow. How does that happen? And so he knows how to set it up. He knows far ahead of time, which is what we were talking about on Monday, this idea of cues, pre-attack cues, pre-assault cues. They are physical. They are behavioral. And if I can then, in my training with sticks and things, right? I mean, however it is, if I can start to offer people, when someone starts to do this, and we just name some of them or something like that, it may mean this. And so you're getting ahead of it. And so we could go down the road of talking about reaction, right? So action is faster than reaction, just blatant statement. And I can give you numbers on this as well with your central foveal vision. We're talking 330 milliseconds. So like a third of a second to respond when you're looking for it, to a change in the environment with your central vision, which is where you have 20/20 vision. Yet a nice slash or a fist or a punch is what? 0.14, 0.16, right? Half of that time. So why doesn't every punch in boxing land? Well, we know why. As soon as we start getting in the ring, we stop looking at their fists and we start looking at the things that show us pain's coming and get away from that pain, right? And so then we start to systematize it. And so that's why, again, go move to a different opponent. What can we start to do? Well, I was told shift partners. I was told speed up, slow down. I was told maybe let's change the lighting and footing and things like that. That's why I love Kelly Warden's camp so much, because it's a place where we can do all those things, but in a super safe, fun manner, right? And so, that then in turn gave me the ability to, for myself, figure out what that was, but it wasn't necessarily formulaic. Look here with your eyes, but attend here. Attend what? Attend. And now when you see this, dropping back is actually the first cue that something might be coming forward. Oh, so by the time you see that, legally, morally, ethically, can I hit back first? Kind of a funny thing to say. Yeah, I absolutely can hit you back first, right? If I can articulate the intent, the jeopardy, right, the means, right, that type of thing, legal, moral, ethical way that I was going to be assaulted, for example. So, here is cue recognition. Let's start to talk about those things. It could be in a situation where someone's approaching you. I'll just move the camera a little bit. I got these in one of the workbooks on my website, but there's pictures and stuff, right? So just ask me for my wallet. Now look at my elbow as I bring my hand and what the elbow looks like. Now, ask me for my wallet. Now the elbow starts to be a 90-degree elbow, right? And it looks completely different. It looks completely different. That's called a critical cue that I know to pay attention to, but how can I teach it on purpose by design in a sliver of the time to someone else? That means this. I should be doing concurrent activity, getting my gun out, moving, whatever it is, and shifting my eyes and attention to where the thing's going to appear so I can confirm, oh, that's a cell phone, oh, that's a knife, or not just jump to action or reaction. Then we add in layers of complexity, meaning it gets dark, there's more people. That's the pressure, and I use that word on purpose, I put into the incident. Building the drills, which is representative, a fancy word for saying just like it'll be on the street. And that in turn is stress inoculation. I have been here before. I have trained for this. This is not absolutely novel. I've never seen this. What is this actually happening? Too late, right? That's already landed. So, ask me as much as you like to dive in on that, but maybe we'll talk about some vision and cues and some things like that. So at least people can have some fun drills and takeaways. Just as it's up to you.
I think that would be great. Like talking about that, because I believe that's going to enhance their perception and all that. So if Renee's fine with it, works for me.
Yeah, it's a lot of the stuff that you're saying resonates with me from the things that I've been through. What I find funny is, again, with people training nowadays, is a lot of people don't realize that they're in the middle of a shitstorm at all. Like sometimes it's just like, oh my God, I think that guy has a knife on him. Or, oh my God, I think that guy actually wants to hurt me. And it's just like, it doesn't register that it's actually happening to him. And I think that's part of the training that I feel people need to, besides the cool guy, look at my jab cross, is a recognition that you are in the middle of something, which doesn't happen. And a lot of people that I know who grew up in different situations literally will step into a real bad situation and not realize that it's actually happening until it's like way too late. Like, you're saying the way people grab their wallet or anything else. I always told like my friends when they're going overseas and hanging out at the all-inclusives and they decide to go to the outside clubs, if someone's talking to you and they put their head down, they're about to headbutt you. And it wasn't until a friend of mine had his nose shattered that he heard me say that just before he got his face busted open. I think that's what's missing in martial arts as well, or in training. where people like yourself who have real life experience can say, if someone talks to you, if they start rotating their body a certain way, or if they start to dip their head down, or they're grabbing your arm a certain way, you're about to get smashed up, or something's bad's about to happen. So yeah, that's my 30-second rant there.
Well, so how can we then? And I get it. My son banks on his phone. I used to have to go talk to a teller, right? Like, I mean, like the people. Well, I'm serious. Like, there is less human contact rather than human. Like, screw you, fight, grade 6 best friends, right? Like that kind of thing. Heaven forbid, worse than that. Traffic, whatever it might be. So we're getting people like interpersonal human aggression is the last human phobia. Colonel Grossman said that, and I would tend to agree. So we're not comfortable with that. The people that you're probably training martial arts with are like, their idea of a fight is an all, caps emoji, whatever text or something, right? And so what we joke, but at the same time, they don't know. So I bring them in, and I say, hey, we're just gonna start educating you as to how fast things can happen and how distance really matters. When I'm this close, try to stop me. Try to stop me.
Reactionary gap is going to be really hard.
Let's watch this video. Wow. Was there something in his hand? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so how quickly can something take place? Now we have to balance that, because I consider myself to try to be like this smiling protector, or, happy guardian or warrior, whatever those words you want to put on it, because I go very dark very quickly, and I thrive in that environment. It's a toxic, corrosive, sticky mess, this violence thing. I love it. It's great. I'm really good at it, but it changes you to your DNA. And so how do we educate them? Because what you're actually saying is, I'm not safe, and I want to at least feel like I am. Right. And so now, how many knife drills end with a whistle blow, and on the whistle blow, you have 20 seconds to get a tourniquet on your inner thigh. Go. That's real. Like, that's real. And that's so I show them how quickly you can lose a life, shock unconsciousness and death with 20, 30, and 40% blood loss. This is all information I gained from one of my NSI brothers who passed away, Chris Gross. And I'll happily pass it on at the next camp or something, right? But to unchecked bleeding in carotid, subclavial, brachial, tibial, femoral, iliac, etc. Now, knowing that at certain heart rates, right? So it's actually a timetable of death. Just sounds super, horrible, right? But now knowing that, how do we understand that? Work with it. Dump out a bunch of strawberry milk on the ground. That's 10% blood loss. That's shock. Here's 20% blood loss for the average person. Look at how much that is. That's a lot. That's how much has to be on the ground before you're unconscious. And here's death. Look at how much that is. That's a lot. We have to start to go, look, I don't need you paranoid. I don't need you anxious all the time. And let's be honest, that's anxiety is what they're not wanting to deal with. That's why, sorry, I'm just reading the comments. And that's why, thanks, Kurt. That's why, we're trying to balance that person. I think they don't want to be as serious about it, because it's literally like foreign and scary to them, right? So how can we go about doing that? Such as, educating them that when you're this close, speed is this quick, right? You cannot stop. So the closer you are to someone, the more your hands and attention need to be in a position. It doesn't have to be, right? In fact, I'd rather it is in a confrontational looking position where you're able to defend. Now here's where we would start talking about, where are you looking? Because your peripheral vision and your central foveal vision are two different kinds that have two drastically different reaction times. And to know how to use them in a situation is a huge advantage. Heaven forbid you were using a gun or driving really fast, in the rain or something like that. So if you don't mind, guys, I got a few things to show. I pulled up some research papers that have some pictures in them. So I like pictures.
Is your shirt on or off for these pictures?
Well,
People are gonna be disappointed. They were assuming that that he was gonna be shirtless.
Honestly, I thought it was a clothing optional podcast. So,
can you see the pictures for crying out loud?
I'm not seeing not yet. I'm not seeing it. The share.
No pictures yet. Okay, well, let me try one more time here. Click.
Here we go.
You can?
Yeah, they're coming through now, but running to the same. There we go.
Okay. Well,
so
make
me
these as small as you want. Let me pull these up.
That's not what I want. I want to make them bigger. There we go.
Okay, so what you're looking at right now is 6 pictures. Can you see my cursor if I spin on the top left guy?
Move around.
No?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Okay, so top left is these are all police officers who are doing a traffic stop, and this got filmed. It's called the Traffic Stop Study. It's by Force Science. Force Science, excellent group of people who've done a lot of research to forward in the community. Some of it you need to pay for. Some of it's free on their website. They got a free newsletter. They've got great.
Excuse me, Jeff. I'm going to lower me and Renee. It's actually going to make you. And when you're done, just holler. But we'll be on the bottom. But it's good to enlarge it. So.
Okay. Good. Yeah. All right. You guys pick your noses, and I'll talk here. So what you're seeing here is all of a sudden the drivers. So each cop, and there were 93 police officers, did 3 traffic stops each. And on one of them, as they were talking to the driver reached down, grabbed a gun, drove it towards them, and started firing. Right. So on one of these stops, every 90 out of 93 officers did some not optimal stuff. Only 3 did something that was, I would say, saved them, basically. The others certainly did not. And they are trained police officers. So I'll bring this around to martial arts, because I know we're not police officers in that, although I was. But the point here is that if you look at the top guy, he is going for his gun and turning his head. The middle top, that lady is, again, going for her gun. Guy on the top right, going for his gun. The guy on the bottom left, Flint turning. The guy on the back is jumping away and going for his gun. And then this guy literally is moving his head out of the way in these pictures. So the reason this is very, very interesting is because of a training scar they were given, and we didn't even know that. What it is that as soon as they saw a gun, they were always taught in their training, history, and experience, oh, you got a gun, I got a gun, it's gun time. Okay, I'll go to my gun. It's gun time. Let's do the gun thing. But this time the gun was already firing at them and is literally close enough to touch. It's within arm's reach. But it wasn't even an option to do anything else. If we could just jump into that fraction of a second and go, hey, pause. Is there anything else you'd like to? The cop would go, oh yeah, no problem. Back in. My point here is that there are 2 parts of your brain that we train. One that just immediately reacts without thinking, and one where I have more conscious thought, like, oh, that's happening, I'm going to do this, or here we go. So the point here is that you need to train those 2 types of your brain differently, and it is absolutely possible to train a, quote, flinching or a startle response to be more tactical. That is a fact. And most people don't even know that's a thing, rather than how to do it on purpose by design. We know it's a thing from this study because we did it to them. There was another study done in a domestic where some people converted their, flinching response to being shot at into a draw stroke and firing much sooner because of how they were trained. So as I zip along here, I'm going to show you some eye tracker, 3 sets of pictures here. So what you see here is a dude at his table and a bunch of colored dots. So imagine these $30,000 eye tracking glasses that show you where your central vision is, and that's what those dots represent. The people who are very trained and highly experienced officers, every single person from the novices to the experts looked at that guy's face first. Every single one of them, because that's what humans were bred to do. We see someone, we look at their face. That's not a bad thing. You can get a lot of information from it. But the novices hung out there longer, and the experts saw the face, went immediately, guess where? Hand, back to face. then area within reach, perhaps back to face and body and hand again, then area just outside of reach, then back and forth. And they had a different looking around called scanning or gaze behavior. That can be taught on purpose, but it's not. Again, it's not even conceptualized in most training. So next set here is this thing called a gaze anchor we'll get to. In fact, here I'll show it in martial arts first. So what you're looking at right now, again, is those fancy eye trackers on a person. This is actually what they were seeing. This is a screenshot. This is in I think it was Taekwondo. So they're watching the opponent in Taekwondo where both punches and kicks were likely. The central belly button, which is labeled H, is where they put their central vision, and they mentally attended to the shoulders and the hips. So they anchored or placed or hooked their central vision there. In boxing, it would be done kind of upper chest because we're not worried about legs. This happens in sports all the time where, for example, in the central picture, this is like maybe a keeper in soccer, a goalie. And so I'd be looking at the person's hips, or I'm the defender versus their face, where I could get faked out, or he could juke around me, and which is why I like that. I think it was Raymond's comment where, how do you set this up? Well, this is, once you understand this information, you can then, look somewhere and pass somewhere else. You can set someone up. What I really like, this is where I took what Kelly Warden was talking about with, the 5 principles of attack, right? For example, in JKD. So now attack by draw, progressive indirect attack, single direct attack, of course, but I also want it to land, so I don't want to telegraph it. I don't just always think I am faster than the other person. And so once you understand those things, you can really leverage them. Probably good enough for pictures, unless you guys have some questions on the pictures. I'll take that as a no questions on the pictures. Okay.
What is going on there? No, that was excellent.
Okay, so what I'm talking about.
I did have a question.
Okay.
So you're showing that from the perspective of the good guy looking at the bad guy, right?
Correct.
Do you have any data from the reverse of the bad guy looking at the good guy to see what their initial idea is for confrontation or contact? I'm just curious, just wondering.
Yeah, so say I got distracted by Kelly Warden comment there. So just say that part again. Bad guy data on what?
So right now, we're looking at the fancy glasses of the good guy coming into a bad guy scenario, and where the good guy's eyes are. I'm just curious if there's any data of the bad guy, or if the data is the same. Like they're looking at the person's face, they're looking at the person's hands.
Well, now that is a very good question. Very good question, because that's what actually matters, and I think I can one up you on it. How about this? When you interview cop killers and say, tell me about killing that cop. Why did you pick that cop? What happened with it? Imagine if something like this came out. I was looking all day to kill a cop, he said, right? Interviewed in Max prison in California. He says, I saw a cop, I committed a traffic violation, got pulled over. The cop got out, he put on his hat, trooper. He said he looked fit. His uniform was clean. He looked like a pretty big guy. He said, I took the ticket and I drove away. I want to say it's within 4 hours. Sees another cop, goes and tries it again, sees another cop, commits a violation, gets pulled over. He said that guy was out of shape. He had mustard on his shirt. I knew I could get away with it. He could have killed the other guy. I mean, let's be honest. But so what was going on that makes me the one who becomes the victim is kind of what I'd take from that. So what are the things we can express? So one of the first things I do in a self-defense class is we go get a coffee on the corner downtown. And I start point out the victims. Who's on their phone? Who's parked at a light with the door open or the music on or not paying attention? Who? What makes someone look like they're going to be a good victim? Because I don't want to work for it, right?
Yeah.
And so I just want my house to look less awesome to break into than my neighbor's house. Go break in over there, right? And so that kind of idea. Now, where the bad guy was looking, and all that. Yes, those are what we're talking about when we get into these cues. And so now we're talking about elbows. We're talking about target glancing. We're talking about, yeah, absolutely. But I want to make everyone aware of them. But more importantly, I need to couple the awareness with this is actually happening, and I need to do something. In fact, I'm behind the curve. And so, comes back to what you were saying, Renee. It's called cognitive dissonance. Oh, is this really happening? Yeah, it is happening. There was an accident. And that's where I start with first aid, because it's not personal human aggression, but first aid's for everyone. And bad things can happen to good people. We're good people, things happen. Oh, and I move.
Well, two of us are, yeah. No, hey, listen, I agree with you. Like, it's not the first time I heard someone say that the person who looks like they're squared away are the ones that are less likely to be messed with. And like, even like, whether I'm teaching a seminar or a class, there's times where I literally have just people standing there for 2 minutes, like, for our stick bites are 2 minutes, and make them realize how much time is in that 2 minutes. And, so they actually realize how long that 2 minutes is. And it's learning to react in those 2 minutes, right? It's not just, because those 2 minutes can be very, very painful for people if they're not paying attention. And it's a long time, like 2 minutes for anything. Like, even when I was a bouncer, 2 minute fight is a long fight, man. Like, that's it's a lot to deal with, and you really got to get your head on straight when those 2 minutes are happening. And the last thing you want to do is look around, like you said, and say, hey, is this actually happening to me right now? Or I hope my friends help me out here, because it doesn't happen that way. You're on your own.
For sure. So now, how do we have, I might get in trouble for saying this, but, I don't teach techniques. I teach goals and principles, right? Principles and concepts, because a technique, you could look at any martial artist, you could look at any high-level sports performer, and I could say, here's their wrist angle. I don't know much about sports, but I'll often say Stephen Curry, his basketball. I Googled the highlight reels, like 47 minutes of him sinking buckets from like past half court. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Not one of those shots looked the same. Not one. And here's a very key point, if people are still actually listening to this, to me, is that, but he knows how to create the moment where he has enough time to do the shot. He knows, here we go, that when Dean is reachable and when he is not. That's more important than this is how to throw the ultimate punch, in my mind. I can sharpen that, but you have to know when you're reachable, how to create that moment, how to fake, how to drive, how to pick up on that information. So the skill set that I normally thought of is 1/3, because you gotta read the environment. Remember, back to perception, reading the play, getting ahead of it, planning what to do and getting ahead of it. Then the actual doing it is just 1/3. But yet we focus in guns and most martial arts, typically speaking, on the doing it, and not the when is it the right thing to do? Oh, the arm bar. Oh, the figure four. Oh, whatever, right? Versus a balanced displacement takedown, which is driven by the vestibular system, which is 3 semicircular canals in your inner ear, and these axes. And if I can shake them really quickly, it buys me a moment to disturb the guy's balance. How can I do that while attached to an arm? How can I do that while attached to a trunk? How can I do that while goals and principles? And what did the 93? Great question.
Yeah,
I think that's great. Honestly, like in some of my infamous basement classes, I always tell people, it's like, I've had people come up to, again, my basement, and we're like scrapping it out for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or however long it is. And it's like, did you get hit a lot? If the answer is no, I'm like, that's great. Like, I don't care that you were running away or you weren't engaging as much. You were learning to keep your distance from me, and then eventually we'll put in the tools to try to hurt me, right? Like, that's kind of the way I feel about training, right? And in a completely non-related topic, it kind of reminds you when I used to play paintball. Like the first couple of times I went there, I would get lit up, and then when I learned to relax and just not put so much pressure on myself to perform, is when I actually started performing really well, because I started seeing how other people are moving. It's the same thing with me with stick fighting. It's like the first few times I got out there, I got lit up like hard. And then when I started chilling out and realizing, okay, I got to learn how to play this game, it's when I started doing a lot better with it.
Well, do you mind if I jump in here, Dean?
No, and we got, whenever you get a chance for Rich's question.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yes, Rich. I wrote it down too, Rich Parsons. If for some reason I don't answer it, you just hit me up and I'll
speak
to you personally. But so what you just said really resonated with me. I got lit up on the paintball field. I got lit up in the stick sparring. Okay, so this is exactly what I'm talking about with training on purpose by design. You were put in situations. It was not, respectfully, it was not the person putting you in those situations and their formula for that got you better at the end. You specifically adapted individually because you're who you are, what you are, and did what you did. That is the same with these elite and expert performers. But so what happened is most likely when we're under pressure and we're getting lit up, focus of attention goes internal because, oh crap, this isn't for me. Oh, I suck again. Oh, whatever's happening, but you're internally fixated. Then when you started to relax and you started to then what? I could see what was going on. You just told me your focus of attention shifted to external. You started picking up on what was critical information, which you knew because you've been getting pain reinforced by the critical information, right? And things like that. And so now what if I could offer a paintball player, a surfer, a stick fighter, a formula for the software in their brain to get better with the experience and the training they're putting in. In fact, you could put in a lot less of it because it's more deliberate practice.
Deliberate practice. That I love.
I didn't coin it. You've all heard the 10,000 hours of repetition, right? 10,000 hour rule, right? So that was Malcolm Gladwell put that out in a book. It's very, very not correct. The man whose science he misattributed, his name is Anders Ericsson, who unfortunately passed away. Anders was very upset with Malcolm Gladwell, saying, you take that back, you misinterpreted all my research. It is not 10,000 hours of practice in order to become an expert. It is the quality of practice, meaning deliberate practice. So if you and I are just doing a thing and I'm practicing my thing to your thing and I know it's coming and it's not even a decision, heaven forbid, maybe a timing issue at best, but it's not even a decision to make, that is not what's going to transfer to a novel, I'm on the street, it's in the parking lot environment. Right? And so that is what I've been kind of pushing. Now, I too love stick forms. I love other things like that, parts of martial arts that live deep inside of me. I'm a martial artist at heart, but I don't kid myself in knowing kata number whatever is going to in any way, I'm going to translate something over there. Right?
That's the majority, though. Like you're seeing, like I was alluding to early in the conversation about like this accumulation and thinking that by virtue of accumulation, that is going to directly translate to functionality. And there's such a disconnect.
How many times, Dean, how many times have you seen masters, who are going to go into a stick sparring or stick fighting situation, and you look at them and it's like, is this your first day? It's like, yeah, you got a million hours over me and you can do sombrada with your eyes closed.
But it ain't going to matter, right? Yeah.
But it doesn't. And honestly, like one of the reasons I got into Krabi Krabong and what I really loved about it was the chambers don't tell you where the stick is going to come from. Like when I'm doing like Pikiti or whatever, if my hand's over my shoulder, where's the stick coming from, right? But in Krabi Krabi, where the stick's actually pointing out, where's the stick coming from? You can't tell, and that's what I loved about it. It just completely changed the game for me because people couldn't tell where the stick was coming from. And
we got
another
question. Never mind, my fault. No.
Let me answer that. Let me answer Rich. I wrote it down. I think it was Parsons. I got old.
It was Parsons.
Okay, I'm going to write down. I'm going to answer that, Rich. If you're still on, sorry, buddy. I hope you're still on. And so he asked, what did those 3 officers do that the 90 others didn't? That was more optimal. And I'll say this, Rich, is that we can have a deeper discussion if you want. But basically, Rich, they immediately moved their head and neck and did some kind of either full-on attachment or type of attachment while doing so, and then either going to guns or full or kept on. So they went to their gun last, not first. Interestingly enough, out of those 3 officers, 2 of them high-level martial artists, defensive tactics instructors who teach that stuff. But one of them was not. This officer, average officer, like wasn't former CIA or something like that, right? Average officer. She said, she didn't teach defensive tactics. She wasn't anything like that. It wasn't anything over the top, just like every normal officer that I would train. But she said this: I have envisioned that happening and what I would do 1,000 times.
Wow.
Not just envisioned it, and what I would do. Coupled that information 1,000 times, even though she'd never done it. And it was her innate, instantaneous, no time to think reaction, which is part of the some of the products I'm putting out, right? Is like, hey, understand reaction time, understand that. There's a part of your brain that happens without thinking, and we're wiring it for not good. I'll tell you that right now. We do this rote, R-O-T-E, this mechanical behavior. Every time I draw the gun, I step off the X. Every time the gun goes empty, I step off the X. Well, I was just with a local police department doing shield work, so a bulletproof shield. They're firing on the range because it's the first time they've used it, but they've been doing this stepping stuff forever. Guess what happened when his gun went empty? He stepped out from behind the shield, reloaded his gun, and stepped back. Stepped out from cover and stepped back. Why?
Just because of all the okay.
Because it's what he'd always done. Why? Gotcha. Because the stepping was done rote, not meaning mechanically, because he was told, not because there's something there that I should step behind for safety or advantage. There's no perception action coupling in the environment. We do it all the time in martial arts. All you got to do, how many people are grappling, right? So grappling, stand up on the ground, BJ, whatever it is. All you got to do is, my friends have attended a lot of those classes. But then when we started grappling and we were hitting each other with plastic bottles and pulling fake blades and doing things like that, they were, number one, freaked out because they weren't used to it. They started getting freaked out. Wasn't what they were used to. And number two, they were never mentally monitoring where my hands were in that situation. They had never trained to do it. But if you just train to do it, this is one of the gifts Kelly Warden gave me long ago, is all these other things I didn't know were so good. Now I can actually quote the research on. So how many times have you, just with the rubber gun here, right? How many times have you go to a range to practice firearms and you draw and fire, bang, bang, how many rounds? Well, if you are wiring out the perception of the bad guy dropping a gun, doing something else. And now I can, as an expert witness, look at the footage or the time of you and talk about why these rounds are now coming in the top of them because they're falling through a plane of gunfire. I can talk about why rounds are continuing on over there because you're not even paying attention rather than stopping, because you are, here's a phrase, you are shooting not to stop the threat, but shooting to save your life. There is a big difference in the emotional center with those two things. And so This, I mean, you know me, right? So I'm just trying to pull at as many strings as possible for your audience to kind of relate to, and then we can take it further from there anytime.
It's excellent.
I
No,
think
no, no. I
that's
mean, this is
honestly
all.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Listen, like again, as a person who's stick taught a lot, I remember like going to classes where people are teaching how to swing and they put their hand up as they swing, and I kept thinking, I'm breaking that hand every time. Every time they're pointing, I'm like I'm breaking that hand, and it's so fixated on them when they actually get out there to swing, they actually put their hands out to swing with power, which again to me is ridiculous. But when it comes to like the kind of creative visualization thing they were talking about, the one thing that really keeps playing in my head is the MotoGP guys. So the motorcycle racers, before a race, you'll see them sitting in a chair and they have their eyes closed and they're doing this and they look like they're having seizures, but they're actually going through the course in their heads. And then when they get out there, they don't even think about it, right? They're like these guys are knees and shoulders on the ground doing 140 miles an hour. It's pretty
That's
incredible.
exactly right. So, I mean, yeah, so like I sell a guided imagery session, right? I've done this with skydivers. I've done this with competition shooters. I've done this with people who wanted to give a presentation at work and they were nervous. Like, it doesn't matter what you want to excel in. I've done this with people who snap at their kid when they do that and they want to do a different behavior. It's all the same thing. It's just I want to give you the ability. You're welcome, Rich. I hope that answered it for you. If you Oh,
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah. He wrote along, but
Okay, well, yeah. So though that visualization, if you know your race, your course, your fight, right? Talking to Michael Phelps, the guy's got like 16 gold medals, right? Like, and he
mm,
believes his one up over the competition was his ability to imagine and visualize, not his 17-foot wingspan. And I can talk to you more about that, saying that he would imagine catastrophe, his goggle flipping full of water, counting the strokes. But the first thing he said was when that actually happened to him I believe it was a gold medal butterfly, I think it was. That's what he was saying. And I think it was just one, but either way, goggle flipped. And he said, I looked down at the line on the pool and I counted my strokes to the end, counted my to the turn, counted my strokes and back. But when questioning him further, what actually happened, because he's an expert performer, he can barely articulate it. He doesn't know, right? He doesn't even know. He said, oh, actually, he had to get a hold of his breathing. So if you're not training breathing to every person, every student, every driver, every one of your kids, and how to regulate it, that is how to regulate your emotions and your focus of attention. And so I love Huberman's Cyclic Sigh. It's a 2-minute video that I play for every cop, I play for every family member, and I show them how to wire that in to what you said. When you have that 2 minutes in the basement or whatever it is, right? To how to recover, how to keep focused, and how to focus on not, oh my God, is this really happening, or what to do, but now more so to modulate my psychology and my physiology. These are all great things to talk about. What I do is actually apply them, right? And that's what ask me pointed questions on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I mentioned this before on different podcasts, but when I was fighting, whenever I met somebody in my head, they're always the same height as me. And whenever I talk to people in my head, I always thought they're the same height. And it wasn't until like Mike Tibbetts, who's like 6'4", 350 pounds. And I saw a picture of him and I was like, oh, is that his kid beside him? And I was like, holy shit, that's me. But in my head, I'm the same height. I'm the same size as him. It was just like this thing that I would put myself through, and I still do whenever I'm gonna, go out there and mix it up with somebody. Just I never give someone that edge in my head, unless it's Dean, because Dean went to my basement and I don't want to talk about it too much because it's still emotional for me, but it was very painful. It was very, very painful.
Oh my gosh. This is great stuff. I have a question for you, Jeff. Like, how do you, like, I know you deal with, it sounds like the gun community, but obviously you're open to deal with any facet of martial arts entities and et cetera. I just know, just based on seeing a lot of content and just talking to a lot of people, knowing what their value system is, what do they value in martial arts and all that. And I guess my question to you is, how can we branch? Like, I think what you have is great stuff, and I think it should go far beyond law enforcement. And there, how do we sell it though to the martial artists, the generic? And I hate to use the word generic, but your FMA guys, your BJJ guys, traditional martial arts, whoever in there. How do we sell that value to them?
Well, selling values, I don't know.
No, the value of what you're doing.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, okay. So someone I know often talks that way too. I mean, and like, as I said, learner motivation is by far the most important thing. So, what is the need? And so the need could be, you're already doing this. Would you like to be better at what you're already doing in less time and actually even be better than you are? I won't bet my paycheck on it. I'll bet my pension on it. This is how to do it, right? This is how to do it. And so like, you're already putting in the time and money. I personally only have so much. Now, if I see that, like, holy crap, I am better. Like I'm a competition shooter. My hits and splits are better. I'm less anxious at the work meeting. I'm doing better in the game of whatever. Absolutely. So now you've gained that. Where can we branch that in other areas of your life? Because honestly, I'm just about like good people, making good people even, like getting them even better, And so gone is right or wrong for me. I mean, yes, I have morals and integrity, but I mean, gone is like, don't do it that way. That's wrong. It's like, hey, it's gotten us so far. And so also the judgment bit, I don't judge anybody for anything. This is just my path up to this point. And honestly, if I start talking to somebody, and one of the questions I like to try to slip in is, 5 years ago, you in martial arts, in whatever it is, are you doing, hey, doctor, you want to be my doctor? What were you doing 5 years ago that you completely disagree with these days? Oh, nothing. Everything's the same. Probably going to check out. Right? Like, because that person just isn't even into growth mindset, or there's no chance you can improve. Everything I've been doing is exactly as good. So I would leverage that. What community are you in? And the thing that I'm kind of offering now, because I'm retired now, so I just started doing this. Like, it could be any branch of martial arts. I'm not coming in as the expert. I'm coming in as the learning guy. You literally are the subject matter expert. I go into SWAT teams. Yes, I show them stuff, but they're the subject matter experts. What do you want your newbie SWAT guys to be able to do? I promise you, I will get them there faster. What would you like your martial artists to get out of this session? Okay, let's talk about how learning, and more importantly, it's actually fun. Like, you're having a great time. It's just the difficulty is in us as the quote instructor, because it's not the way we're doing it. I mean, it's only little tweaks, right? Little tweaks, if there's change. But that is where the wonderfulness lies. There's where you're at, and there's where you want to go, and there's the uncomfortable area in between. Get comfortable in the area in between, with learning a language, with developing personal relationships, with a skill set, with whatever. That is the point. If I could give one thing to the youth these days, one skill, it would be learning how to learn. Because from AI to whatever, everything will change 5 years from now. And if you don't know how to learn and adapt, that's going to be it.
This AI stuff, huh?
Well, for sure. I mean, absolutely. I mean, hello from LA. Hello, LA.
I had posted your website and your email address.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Please reach out. I mean, there's so I guess, hey guys, on my new, I'm not used to even saying this. There's a free article on my website. You can go to the shop and download it. It talks about some things, game intelligence, which is a key point of something that I like to teach. We can talk about that. I don't know how much time we've got here, but I've got time. We could talk about game intelligence and that. So you could download that, and then you sign up for a newsletter. Although I'm not even sending newsletters yet, but at some point I'll send a newsletter, and you can You can hit me up.
This is great. You know, it's weird because Dean's never posted my email or my website on this podcast, but you know, I'm
I don't
whatever.
want to get you. I don't want to get you
Whatever.
in trouble.
I obviously didn't get the $20, but
I bribed him with a case of strawberry bubbly. So
see, he actually came through with the bubbly. See?
I do have a question. Like, so as far as arts are concerned, like you've trained with Tattoo Warden. Is there anything else that you studied as well that, or are you still studying now, or is there anything you're looking into right now?
Yeah. So I mean, this is how I say it. I feel my actual martial arts training started in the summer of grade 11. Even though I had done a little bit of judo at the Y was probably the first thing, right? There's a little bit of taekwondo for maybe 3 months or something, you know, and off and all that kind of stuff. But Budo Taijutsu or Ninjutsu, right? So Masaki Hatsumi in Japan, that's my first art. That's my base art. So that's when I really kind of opened up to, whoa, okay, so there's a lot more here than I thought. And I met an amazing instructor through that named Jay Creasy out of Calgary, Canada. And Jay Creasy introduced me to Kelly Warden. And that was how that happened. And then that was over 25 years ago, obviously. Like so, and I've definitely studied with and under other people, you know, as that's happened. But basically, I would say like I look at things like with a ninjutsu origin. So a move without openings, the ability to change and take their will to fight or resist. So those are the three things I look at in martial arts. How can I move without openings? How can I not be committed 100% to any one thing? The ability to change. And that's in mind, of course, mainly, which means you have to continually have perception. And then the ability to take their will to resist, fight, put up, you know, or whatever. Yeah, ninja. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm just one of the very few that it was actually legit. You know, went to Japan, you know, took the Godan test, right? You know, all that kind of stuff. Like I was in there for many years. Yeah. So
it's awesome, though. Wow, that was legit. Wow.
You were in Calgary, you said?
No, well, yeah, that's where I trained with Jay Creasy. And there's a seminar circuit, but Jay was kind of the main dude that opened me up to a gun guy, opened me up to Kelly Warden, you know. So it was just kind of very fortuitous that I had met him as well.
Mm-hmm. And you did some JKD as well?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Kelly, right? I mean, Datu's got it. Yeah.
Who were you training with at that point? Was it?
Yeah, well, I would say that Kelly Warden opened the door for me to many people, many people, right? So Doc Brett, Professor Bob Anderson, Professor Trigg, I mean, like just everybody, right? Like, I mean, like yeah. So, you know, of course, Mr. Keating through there, you know, like all that, but that was where I kind of met groups of people and those types of things, you know, yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out if we actually may have crossed paths on some of those JKD ventures back in the day.
Yeah.
Wow. So because I'm thinking we would love to have you back on. I think we both love what you're speaking on. And I just, granted tonight was an overall lens, but would you be interested in coming back in once you get the website on? We can kind of dial in some certain things.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll offer this out. So maybe we can judge by the feedback, let this thing air for a little bit or whatever.
Yeah, right? When I get back, sure.
But there's this concept called game intelligence, and I would love to come on and talk about. So game intelligence is one of the things I formulaically teach, and game intelligence is simply knowing what, where, when, why, and how something's likely to evolve, right? So all I mean is Wayne Gretzky, here's the analogy. Wayne Gretzky wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the, you know, all the rest of it, but he could read what was going on and predict and get ahead of it. He had game intelligence, game IQ. And so honestly, I got about a 3-4 page little, what the heck's game IQ? And then I've got I think I'm on to about 11 or 12 pages now as to what are one of the parts of game intelligence to train that. Well, that's cues, pre-attack cues, pattern recognition. So what are the things I can look for when someone starts doing what with their eyes, when someone's shoulder does what, when someone's elbow does what? Now, how can I get in my dojo or garage with my neighbor and train those things? More importantly for game IQ, because you could just say have good situational awareness, right? I was part of a tier 1 group. I was sitting with a bunch of guys in a tier 1 organization talking about situational awareness. And even they didn't have a written definition for it, but they it was very important to them. Well, how can you teach something on purpose if you don't even have the same definition? So situational awareness, it's very easy for me to say, just like head on a swivel, 360, no 540, no whatever, right? Like, pay attention more or something. Well, that's a complete fallacy. If I'm attending to you in a high quality manner, I am no chance I can attend to all those other things. And so experts do this. They take their attention and they shift it around, meaning they filter out the things that don't matter. That's the key point. That's the other side of the coin. So how do you know what doesn't matter in a situation that's got all this shouting and lights and things and whatever? You start with the information that does matter, what I told you at the beginning, and then you layer in more of that stuff, already knowing what to focus on and when. So game intelligence, they know what to focus on and when to focus on it. But unlike situational awareness, game intelligence means, and I have immediate actions to get ahead of it, hopefully to negate it, or to at least neutralize it quickly, legal, moral, ethically. So
let's definitely do that. I can't imagine the audience going to love that. I would like to hear more on that. So if you're game for that, if you want to, just let me know, because I'll schedule it right now for a couple of weeks. Gives time for these, like you said, the episode to digest with folks. But certainly bring it back on.
And if you throw in a couple T-shirts.
Yes.
What do you mean off?
Hey, listen.
Yeah, would you be in that for that? A couple of weeks, come back on, we'll discuss game intelligence.
I will schedule you guys for as soon as I can. Next week I hit the road and I'm.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have to be next week. I mean,
as soon as I can. As soon as I can. I'm hitting my busy season here. But yeah, I will absolutely. I'd love to be back.
No.
And if you guys are at Kelly Warden's Water and Steel, or if any of your people, it's not Labor Day this year. We bumped it 2 weeks prior at the August. Oh, who's got it? Someone will put it in the chat. But 2 weeks prior, because we didn't want to hit or miss on Labor Day, right? So because you either had to commit to it or not. So, and I have a shameless plug for a place that I just love going to that camp, and I'll be there and I'll be teaching there, and we'll be hanging out and doing all this stuff. So,
I have to. He's inviting me every year. I got to go just to meet him. I have to. Long overdue. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Kelly.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody did. You called it 15th.
Kurt, thank you, Kurt. So it must be like 15, 16, 17, or it's usually like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, when things slow down for you, I know you're busy season. Let us know, but we'll bring you back on for the game intelligence. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, you and I will book it, very soon here, because I'll just pop my calendar open. I'll know when I'm free.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, I'm a size large for T-shirts.
American large.
Large. And
there's good.
It's
going to be a tariff. There's going to be a tariff on it. So I just want to get out. I just want to get that out there right now. I'm not trying to cause any issues, but there's going to be a tariff, man. So.
Just letting you know. And sorry, you're in Florida, you said, right?
I am. That's
whereabouts are you?
Like north of Orlando, like basically Orlando.
Okay.
Drive, but
yeah, I was literally there just a couple days ago.
Cool.
Yes. Awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for reaching out too. I mean, I'm glad we made this happen. And I love hearing from you. So stay in touch. Let us know your schedule. We'll make it happen.
All right. Well, thanks. Any feedback, just shoot it my way. From whomever. I'm always interested to hear what people were. Yeah.
No, I will. I mean, and folks, if you're watching, if you do, I definitely put in here the website and Jeff's email. So
There's a contact form on my website. There's a free article on there. You can sign up for a newsletter. I'll write one at some point. But
if anybody wants my email or my website, just let me know.
Email me.
It's only been 9 episodes, but hey, just saying.
Just putting it out there. Awesome. All right, Jeff. Well, hey, you take care. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
All right. That was awesome, man.
But the more I think about it, you never ever tell people my website or my.
I don't want to get you in hot water. So I'm actually thinking about you.
Nobody knows my OnlyFans either.
I'm actually thinking about you. Okay. So.
Hey, do you mind if I do a shameless plug real quick?
Oh yeah. Do you have that thing too? Well, do you actually have the here? Hold on.
It's probably on Mark Madero's.
I was gonna say here, if you want, while you're talking about it, I will try to pull up the pic and we could share it.
Sounds good. In April, second week of April, Mark and I are doing a seminar just outside of Toronto. So if anybody's interested to come and check it out, let me know. We're doing kind of from the standing to groundwork. It's 4 hours. It's actually quite cheap. It's about $60, and you get to hear all the stories.
Oh, and I can only imagine the stories. Okay, I'm going to save the photos. I just got to. I'm just seeing it here right now. And what I'm going to do. Just bear with me.
We're also looking at doing something in September, right, Dean? Oh, sorry, not end of April as well.
Yes, and I got to talk to you about that because I'm almost maybe thinking about tying you to our camp down here. But yeah, we could definitely talk about that as well as and it looks like I'm going to be going back to Canada, tentatively September 20th or 27th for the WPM Medusa camp.
Nice.
Yes. So we don't leave our fellow Canadian brothers out. All right. I'm going to send this there. Then I have to pull it up. It's going to be about 1 more minute or so. So you got, April 12th. Gosh, a little less than a month away. How you guys getting some good attention on it? I mean, folks.
You know what? With seminars nowadays, it's one of those weird things. We do have some traction on it already, and people are excited about it. And then I know, usually it's the week prior to it actually happening is when people are like, "Oh, you guys do a seminar?"
Never fails, right? It's it's just been posted for 2 months.
Yeah, it was funny. It was like that when I was in Finland. I was teaching in Finland, and the guy sent me a message like, "Are you in Finland teaching a seminar?" It's like, yeah, we've only been, talking about it for the last 6 months.
It's just, I know, people just get caught up in their lives and etc. And they just don't realize that they've seen this thing probably 10 times already.
Or accidentally make fun of their gym because they have a DJ and.
Yeah. Oh, that, yeah. I don't even want to ask who that was.
Dude, I'm telling you. I am telling you. I walked in and I had my training gear in my hand, and I turned around and I was like, "Am I in the right place?"
Jeez.
And the guy I was teaching for, I just turned to him. I was like, "What the fuck's going on, guy? What's happening?" It's like, "Oh, we have a DJ on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays."
So that's okay, here we go. Thank you for the patience, and it is coming up. So here it is. There it is. Renee's office. Is that there's your website, Renee? I don't need to post it. Yeah, there's the flyer.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow, you two together. That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, Mark and I go back, right? We go back quite a bit.
I didn't realize. I mean, I knew you guys knew each other. I guess I just didn't realize how well and how far back. I guess. Yeah.
I think, and I could be mistaken. He'd probably be the better person to tell the story. But when he walked into the place where I was teaching, I was taking over for another for a bikini guy who was teaching at the school, and apparently it kind of freaked him out because we're just like being the crap out of each other, and
Oh, here he walks into like,
like, oh, who's that fellow?
Yeah. So, yeah, but anytime you got something, obviously, while we're on here to share, I mean, so I got back from weekend in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
It actually went really well. And looks like I'm going to be going back down there maybe in the fall.
Nice.
I'm going to try to time it. I'm going to try to time it with testing. So when some of these guys will go to their next level, to do that. So that's the idea anyhow.
I've been working on a bunch of stuff, and I think I need to maybe send you some of those videos again.
Yeah. Or we always just jump on a quick call, whatever, whatever's easiest. Yeah. So yeah. And then how far are you? Saratoga. Actually, Saratoga the same weekend as this. 12th. The 12th is on a Saturday?
No idea.
Oh. I can tell you right now.
I don't really pay attention. I just like people tell me to come and teach, and I kind of show up.
You just make sure you're kind of there.
Yeah.
All right, I'll tell you right now. Actually, it's Saturday. Yeah, so I'm gonna be in Saratoga the 12th and 13th. The guy there, it's Saratoga Martial Arts. It's a venue of different martial arts and styles and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then this guy says, look, I'm going to give you 3 slots. I want you to show, your stuff. So I thought, which was nice of him. Yeah. So be a blade taper.
I got to ask you, did you get a new sword? That black and white one behind you? Or has that always been there?
That's the latest one I did get. Matter of fact, I got that one around like 11 months ago. This April will be 12. As a matter of fact, I got it up in New Hampshire from Mike Miguel Ruby. Okay. So it's a Zanzibar. Yeah.
And I think maybe we should. We talked about this show before, is because there's so many seminars happening. It'd be nice to maybe do a show where we get everybody.
Oh, you know what? Why don't we just do it next week? Seriously.
Get everybody who's doing so anybody out there who's doing a seminar or a training camp, like give us 10, 15 minutes of your time and jump on and talk
we
about
can just circle people through. And let's do that. We can do that next week. I mean, there's got to be folks that are doing stuff, right, that we can bring on. I mean,
yeah.
If not, we can certainly talk about kind of how to coordinate. I mean, we've both done enough where we can give some insight on that, right? I mean, planning, coordination.
I'll talk to some of the Euros because the surf camp's happening around September as well.
Okay.
Which I'm heading out for. And there's also there's a camp in Sardinia, which is really, really popular as well, which I think would be great.
Norman, if you're still watching, if that's something you want to jump into, how you plan, coordinate the one we just had, let me know.
Yeah, same with Datu Kelly.
He's a pro, man. He's playing. I forget what year. I know it's a lot.
I think they've been doing this for 43 years now.
It's insane. Yeah. Incredible. Yeah,
even like there's a few gatherings and stuff coming up where people can.
No, I think it's a great idea. And here's the thing: even if we don't get a lot in our that, I think it's a time well spent just to talk about the coordination, how to plan, how to do it effectively. You know what I mean? What resources to use as far as getting the word out there? How you got to
But
recycle it?
it's a lot different than it used to be. Like I remember when I was hosting seminars regularly, it was pretty easy. It was just like, sending a bunch of messages and emails and
Because that was what people relied on. So actually, they had to like look at it and then write it down. Now, social media, they get invited and they'll check interested just to keep getting the word, keep information in there. But
oh yeah,
yeah,
I
definitely
remember
different.
the first time I hosted Guru Dan in Toronto was like 130 people, and then the second time was like 60.
It is because more than half of them just came just to meet and see him, and then they get whatever signed and picture, and yeah.
Which is another craziness. Like I met some. I'm not a martial arts freak. Like, because I'll be honest with you, I love to train and I love to mix it up, but I don't really care for a lot of the other stuff. But the people that I met at the Inasano seminars that were just dying to like, what do
Groupies.
you have for breakfast? It was like we
Group,
had to remove a guy because he got like he went crazy. Like he was actually like nuts.
yeah, groupies.
Like we had to tell him like to back off, and he's like, I just want to ask more questions. It's like,
It's like there's a guy. I know. Like I said, I'm sure more than half just went just to meet him and get a picture or whatever, right? I mean,
yeah, I was like that with a lot of the original guys. Like originally with Larry, it was like that, and then I realized how much I like training with him. So it was like that was a different story.
yeah.
But Gahe and all those, like these are all people that I wanted to kind of like meet and kind of like see where their headspace is at. And a lot of them I kept training with, and a lot of them I was like,
I was in seminar one or two with Guy, and I I didn't have a camera, and I don't know if cell phones were out. So, needless to say, I didn't get a picture with him.
I'm still blown away that you and I were at that same seminar and didn't even know it. The one
I
with
remember because I just remember Tim Wade just running around. It's not walking. I mean, like, I'm like, this is interesting. But mind you, I was very, very early in that stage of FMA. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So yeah.
what was it, like 2007? I think it was like 2006.
On or around, yeah. I mean, definitely mid 2000s, yeah. Because it was after when Guy came, yeah. And it was still when Ron was upstairs. Or wait, downstairs. Because in that place, where it was at Waterbury, he had an upstairs and a downstairs. And I'm trying to think what year.
I remember it was like upstairs. He had like a display case with all his.
It was okay. So it was upstairs. Shortly thereafter, he moved, I believe, downstairs. Yeah, and then after that, as location he's been at now since how many years now? But yeah, so
And he's still teaching out there too, right?
yeah, I mean, literally, he's probably 2 or 3 miles from that location.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
he's been
his kid's an MMA fighter, right?
Jesse. Yeah, I had a few injuries. But it looks like he's back. He just had a fight recently. He did well. I'm not sure when his next one is, but sounds like he's back healthy. So yeah, but yeah, it's hopefully he'll continue to do well. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, but yeah, we can do that next week. Matter of fact, I can put a couple things out there just see who would be interested in just popping on for, like you said, 10, 15 minutes. We get a few folks, and then, of course, we can talk about how.
And let's just to be clear, it doesn't have to be FMA. It can be anything.
That's true, too. That's a good point.
So even if it's a HEMA event or anything else.
Yeah.
Like anything is cool with us. And I just got in touch with the jousting group, so
Oh, what they say?
they're good to go. So maybe we can do it like in 2 weeks from now.
Oh, that would be, oh, wow. Yeah, folks, you're watching the jousting on horse.
On a horse. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going from 30 miles an hour to a dead stop. And it's a couple too. It's like one of Canada's, or it was actually the world's like only female jouster. So that's yeah. He also participates in like I think it's called the like Butthurt or something like that. The HEMA fighters.
Yeah. Wow.
Like that to me is insane. Like getting hit with an axe while on the side of a tin can does not appeal to me whatsoever.
No, this that rattle. Yeah, I don't think I would want to. Like, I'm not ready to experience that. Bring a few people on. I'm just sending a message to one of the folks that I think maybe you could come on.
Yeah, maybe I can get Steve Sachs on and talk about the upcoming gathering in the U.S.
Yes, we could do that. But also, yeah, let's see what we can get. But I'm pretty confident. I think we should be good at getting a few folks on. And again, though, we could certainly fill in the gaps, right? I mean, so we've both done enough coordination where we can.
I'd like to get Adam back on as well, because I feel like that's only a half story.
Yeah, whatever. Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So,
all right. Well, that was a good show.
We'll be in touch. Yeah, it was a good show. I really like what you had to say. So.
Yeah. And I think now that I'm not sick, I should be okay for the next test run.
That would be yes, that would be nice. Also, matter of fact, one just replied back. Yep, Norman. So yeah, but awesome. Well, obviously, I'll be in touch.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Say hi to Penelope for me, please.
I do.